Brother.
What's going on, man? Good afternoon. Yeah, I know it's a
I
different,
thought your voice was cut
day,
out there
but
for a second.
yeah, that's how you feeling, man? Happy Monday.
Good, man.
What's we got? You know what's cool? I think with this late afternoon start, shout out to everybody supporting and watching us. We get to kind of reflect on the day. Usually we reflect on the weekend. So let's get into that, brother. What did you do on the weekend? What did you do today up until coming on live with me, brother?
Weekend was actually busy. I realized that when I go hard one day, man, it takes me a whole day to recover. I spent like most of the day just chilling around the house and in pajamas yesterday. It was pouring rain. It was actually awesome. Watching movies, watch the whole season of Fubar. Um, yeah, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger's new show on Netflix. But yeah, I kind of binge watched that. And then today, man, just back at her, buddy. Nice and revived and refreshed, and glad we're getting more rain. Hopefully, it's in northern Ontario and northern Quebec as well. But what'd you get up to?
Yeah, I love that you said
I
that,
saw
man.
y'all
Loving
were
the
out at
rain.
some dog rescue thing this weekend too.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you said that with your Sunday. So Saturday, I was at a dog rescue event. I was there maybe like 8 o'clock to. We were supposed to be there till 4, but it was very slow. So I packed up at like 2 o'clock. I got home, hung out for an hour. So this was in Bowmanville. So this is about a half an hour away from where I live. And then we went to a religious event in Brampton. So I was dead tired on Saturday. So same thing with you, man. Yesterday I probably took like 4 naps. And I don't, for
Yeah.
anybody who has sleep apnea, I do have sleep apnea. It's really annoying when you want to take naps because like you can't just pass out on the couch. You got to go upstairs, put on your mask, put on the water and everything like that. So I'm
Oh,
not really
really?
allowed
You
to.
got to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
See,
Like I
when I
can't
when
take
I when
naps.
I had my mask, I've stopped using my mask because it ended up being a tumor. It wasn't sleep apnea,
Yep.
but I was able to nap. I just snored really bad.
And well, it's like that's what they've told me, right? They're like, you're allowed to do that. Technically, you are, but it's just like, why would you do the thing that's hindering like your progress, right? So it's like, why? Like, it's because you're gonna snore, your mouth is gonna be open, and it's just like you're gonna feel like crap anyway. So yeah, yesterday I probably
Mhm.
took like 4 naps upstairs. My wife is still feeling it, coming back from Mexico last week, so even she's like really tired and things like that. But you know what? I think the reflection today, like I did a couple things today, and I'm ready, man. I'm truly ready. I think I said on a couple weeks ago that when I look at June and when I look at the rest of the months, I'm really envisioning my family what they're doing on Christmas Day, man. So it's full engagement, full motivation. Let's
Good
go,
for
let's get
you.
shit done because hey, I really want them to open up like my dream. I won't say it here because maybe they're watching, but I have some really big dreams, and like we said, it's not all material and things like that, but being able to I don't have like I said, I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine when you like got like Brendan or your daughter like that gift that they said you said you weren't gonna get them, and just having that moment. Like I feel like every mom is like that with their coffee, just watching the kids
Yeah.
open up their gifts, like the
Oh
PS4s
yeah.
and all that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah. There's
you
like
know,
the one big one, and there's all these other
yeah.
ones that lead up to the big one. And yeah.
And she
It's
won't let
pretty.
you open up the big one first. You gotta
Yeah,
lead right. You gotta
yeah,
open up the socks. You gotta open up the
yeah,
underwear. You gotta
yeah,
open up the
yeah.
different things.
And
So
as you get older, you're like, man, awesome! I got socks and underwear. It's sweet. I don't have to
I
go buy
love it.
them.
I love getting socks and underwear and basically like the stuff that you know what and I think this is for different people as well. For me, for Christmas, a lot of people they always say, "Hey, I don't need anything. I have everything I want." But you know what? It's the time for like to get stuff that you wouldn't splurge on yourself.
Yeah,
Like let's say like for me personally, I love like look at a pen for example, right? Like you look at like a bunch of big pens for like a pack of $3. Like yeah, a pen does a pen's purpose. But one of my favorite gifts was that I think I got like $100 Pilot pen one year, and I was like, "Holy crap, this
yeah,
is like really really cool." I would never splurge on that on
yeah,
myself. So that's what I try to do for other people, right? So if it's like
yeah,
if my mom's got like a minimum air fryer. I'll get her like the air fryer with all the bells and whistles and all that stuff, right? So just the stuff
Speaking
you
of
want to
that,
splurge.
brother, our son got Christine and I an air fryer for Christmas,
Sick.
and buddy, they are the best. Have you ever heated up meals in it? Like it has a
Ah,
reheat button, and
that's all
so
we do.
yesterday was it yesterday Saturday for lunch. Christine and I came in. We had chicken that we did on Thursday, and I put it in there, and I just hit reheat, and I was like, this thing is the best to reheat food. Like microwaves are
Oh, it's
null and
brother, you
void
got
now.
no, honestly, like reheating stuff,
Oh,
especially like French fries. Like, you know, when McDonald's fries, they all get nasty and all that stuff, but reheating fries, reheating everything. And my wife actually got me an air fryer for Christmas one year. And what I love about our air fryer, and I love that we're talking about air fryers, but ours is kind of like an oven. So it's like a box and
mm,
it's oven and that has two trays. So like usually the air fryers are like baskets, right? But we can
yes.
do like a whole rotisserie chicken in there. We can dehydrate. I've looked into dehydrating like sweet potatoes and stuff like that for my dogs, but it takes like 8 to 10 hours, and I don't feel comfortable running electricity for that long. You know, like for that.
Well,
But
we
yeah,
we dehydrate sweet potato all the time for our dogs. Like I
mm,
make all their treats,
yeah.
and I use the old style dehydrator with the rows,
Mm,
and it's about a day. So I usually start it either at 6 o'clock at night until 9, and then we put it all in a Ziploc and go to bed for the night, and then
yeah.
pull it back out in the morning and finish dehydrating it. But these guys are like fiends around the dehydrator, just waiting for test
Oh
strips to
yeah,
fall.
they
And
know, man.
yeah,
They
yeah,
know.
oh yeah,
They know. They're amazing at that. And
yeah,
you know
they
what?
got
I
us
think that is
trained
so
pretty
nice.
good.
Yeah, having met Stanley and Stella, I can definitely agree to that. But you know what?
Yeah,
Let's hit our intro video and let's get into what we want to talk about today.
you got it, brother.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Relationships, partnerships, and all of the above, brother. Mm,
Ooh, let's
mm,
talk
mm,
into it. You
mm.
know, like first and foremost, for everybody last week who tuned in and saw the theme. The theme this week is going to be, like we said, dedicated to your partnerships. Dano, when we came up with this, give a quick description of what exactly the theme, what we're going to be talking about this week, because it can go a lot of ways, right? I'm thinking, hey, dedicated
Yeah.
partnerships with your carriers, dedicated partnerships with
Yes.
your ops and customer service team, with your
Yes.
customers. Give me what's going on, Dano.
It was. I mean, it's logical, right? The next step, and it's not like none of this is rocket science that we're going to talk about. And even when we were creating the themes and the way to step forward from one step to the other, right? The show is meant to give you tools, strategies, and ideas that's going to take you from where you are to $1 million. And all that is walking up the stairs forward, walking over the bridge you built. So when you talk about money, talking about asking for more money, the next logical step is how do I create long-term partnerships with
Mm,
everybody I work with, right? How do I step into that field? How do I get better at giving my partners what they need in order for them to be profitable, right? This is not as a broker, how much can I make and screw everybody else? This is
mm,
an even playing field. This is like a street with two-way lights. It's not just a one-way street. And when we talk about these partnerships, Ryan, it's everything. Everything. I remember, this won't be a me, but when the 2019 hit and there were so many issues and so many carriers were raising their rates, my entire cost of business went up 3% because I had the relationships, I had everything in place, and it protected my customers because
yeah.
my suppliers knew I would be there when this whole roller coaster is done. And if you look at the roller coaster that's been the last 3 years, I think stability is the big word that everybody's looking for. I really do.
I think so too. I couldn't agree with that more. I think everybody wants that stability. Nobody wants, I think when you're in this industry, you can kind of figure out, work smarter, not harder. Right. And if you
Hmm.
have that opportunity to, like, why wouldn't you take it? For me, dedicated partnerships, it's everything that I do. In terms of like the first domino for me is getting on the same page with my ops and customer service team,
Hmm.
making sure that, hey, I got a dedicated partnership with them and they understand like, hey, Ryan's just not another sales guy just throwing stuff and is only worried about his commission. Like I make it a point, and this is not just selfishly, but I make it a point to get to know them, understand like, hey, if they got kids, certain hobbies, things like that. I go that extra mile because there's going to be a time where I'm not going to be able to pick up the phone or answer an email, and I got to know that these people will run through, not necessarily run through a wall for me, but they've got to have my back at the end of the day.
Yep.
And then set that expectation too, because I feel like, as Dan, you're talking, it's like a waterfall, right? So if I set up my expectations with my ops and customer service team, let them know the expectations that, hey, when I bring in customers or bring in prospects, let's not go on the load board. Let's manage. Well, sorry, let's retract that. Right, retract that completely. In my discovery with ops and customer service, I find out what lanes run for them. What they do really well, exactly for other sales reps myself. Because why wouldn't I want to? If they're crushing a lane or a couple lanes for other sales reps, why wouldn't I want to get in on that? There's going to be so many customers that, hey, maybe we can do a backhaul for them, or maybe we can triangle it, and make it a big factor there. So I think dedicated is, we'll get into that word specifically a little bit later on here, but it's just so key, my man.
Well, it's leapfrog, right? So when you're asking, from a brokerage side, you're asking, hey, guys, what's the best lanes you have? That's because they've built they built strong partnerships. Maybe some of them dedicated, but they've built strong partnerships with certain carriers.
Yep.
That those carriers run those lanes. And then if you look at it, now all of a sudden you're asking that question that brings them back to the drawing board with that supplier. And then that supplier goes, man, they're really looking out for me. I'm going to give them better service, which is in turn going to give you better service. Like it's a magical process.
Yep.
That unfortunately a lot of people don't pay attention to, because it's like, well, I'm just going to go out and find a customer that's shipping anywhere, and then I'm going to post it on a load board, and I'm going to play in the spot market, and then I'm going to, and don't get me wrong, brother, that's one way to do it, right? Like, I think it's how most of us started our business. Yep. Because you have to get a lane somewhere. And when you first start in the industry, you don't have friends that are carriers. I used to go and ask salespeople, who's your best carrier? Who's your best carrier? Who's your best carrier? Certain people would give me the information. Other people would hold it too close to them because they're afraid to give me a truck so that, they won't have me. But it's consistent building and building and building. And as you do it, the rows start getting higher. And then you put a second floor, then a third floor. Then all of a sudden you have an apartment building. And then you start bringing in real money with solid foundation that you built it all on.
And you talk about foundation. Let's talk about that a little bit, because any sales rep who's watching there, shout out to Anthony who's watching us this late afternoon, is just like, I think building the foundation is just like, if you're going to understand what your business is going to look like. Like we always talk about designing life that you want to do, and, asking your carriers, because when you go into brokerage specifically, they're going to, some of them might be opted to say, hey, we're good at everything, but we all know that's not the truth, right? And if we go in with an asset, but if you go talk to an asset carrier and you ask them, hey, what's your strong lanes? They're only going to give you the lanes that they run. They're never going to 3PL it unless they have a 3PL division, but then they'll be pretty straightforward with that. But, ask for what's the strong things and work in that strong environment. And I think that's just
the lanes they're wanting to improve on. Maybe they have a new lane where they have a new customer and they're looking to get to or from. And maybe right now they're taking spot board freight and they're kind of going like this with the market. And 1 week they make good money and the next week they get hosed. And like these are the conversations. And then you help them build that foundation for them. It takes one carrier, Ryan, like literally. You get one carrier with 500 trucks and help them build their business. You've got a multi-million-dollar business.
Yep. I've seen that with our ops team. I've seen that so much. Like they helped even a smaller company. Maybe 15 to 20 trucks, but these carriers would run through a wall for our ops team. Because they've helped them out regardless.
Because now they have 30 trucks because of your team. Yep.
And I think that is just so key. And when we're talking about, are you dedicated to your partnerships? I think that's the one thing. Don't. Dan, can you speak on a little bit, because I think getting dedicated partnerships, we always kind of see the carrot like Bugs Bunny sometimes. So, hey, we might find a diamond in the rough. We got our existing carrier and everything's going well. But, hey, during discovery, hey, we might find a carrier that's a lot cheaper. And you're trying to take that willing chance to go for the margin. What are your thoughts on something like that, Dan?
So I don't believe in that. I believe in, if you have a relationship, you stick with it. Talking to your suppliers and figuring out operating costs. Like if it's working, there's no reason to, like, if you're making money, there's no reason for you to do anything of that. You
Yeah.
know, even when I had all of my Dell computer business with one carrier, and there were carriers out there that were $200-300 cheaper. But you know what? To sleep at night, knowing they had 10 loads going down the road, the way these guys would go out of their way, if I were to try and make that $200 or $300 more on 2 shipments per week, the amount of headaches that I would have for that is not worth it.
Yeah.
So listen, I'm making good money on it. I'm pulling in decent margins. Like I'm not pulling in $5 or $20 or $50. I was pulling in decent margins. Like I think that's just greed, Ryan. You know, here's the thing. There's two sides to it, right? So I developed relationships and I still am. I have a customer that has, 50, 60 loads a day. And I can't, unless I really want to dive back in that world, I'm not doing 50, 60 loads a day. But I had a meeting a couple of weeks back with a company and they said, hey, listen, I want in on the action. How do I do it? I said, well, let's set you up and then maybe we'll just give you 2 loads a day. Like you can do that. You're not necessarily with, that one supplier. If you have a second supplier that comes in, ask the customer, I've got another supplier that's key with building a relationship. Do you have any extra business? And they might have extra business, but don't take it away from the one that's been feeding you and doing a really good job because they've done nothing wrong. They don't deserve to lose the business. Not over, $100, like even $200. They don't deserve to lose the business. They really don't, because that's not a relationship. You say it's a relationship, but it's not. And if you do jump for $200, now you're jumping for money.
Yeah.
Because you don't know this other person you've been dealing. You know what I mean? It's like when you call a prospect up and they say, well, I've had the same suppliers for about 6-7 years. I'm like, I honor that. I really do. As much as I want your business, I honor that. Because if I was one of those suppliers, and that creates a great conversation, and 99.9% of the time, I eventually get business from them. A new lane opens up. One of the suppliers, you and I both know it. We could have the best partners, both carriers, customers, ops teams, everything on earth. One guy in our ops team leaves, everything falls apart, right? We've been there before. One guy on the ops team on the supplier leaves and everything falls apart. The customer or somebody on the customer's team leaves, he gets a new boss or something, everything falls apart. Like we've all been there for these situations. So there is going to be situations like that. It's not the end all of end all, but it does guarantee business for a longer term.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the only, in my experience, working with dedicated partners, where hey, we might be looking for others. First and foremost, when you're outsourcing a lane or something like that, or getting a new carrier on, I'm a big fan of having 2. Just having a backup, because some things are going to happen. Delayed at a pickup, at their delivery, they're not going to be able to pick today. In certain relationships with my customers, I can be like, hey, this is what's happening. We've been working together for a while. Can we just pick this up tomorrow based on everything, hours and all that stuff? But if it's a newer relationship, I go for that 100% on time pickup regardless. So it might be a situation where, hey, we might have to put player B into there. And I think of it too, like Dan, you kind of mentioned here, like when you're talking to your customers do that. They're going to have their A roster of brokers and asset carriers. And it's not, I hate when people say when one person messes up, it's just an opportunity arises. I like to focus on the positives about it. So let's say their A roster cannot make it, and then they give you a chance. It's like, okay, it's that my time to play. You're on the bench and you're on the court right now. So I think when it comes to understanding what your carriers are, if you have a great relationship with them, always kind of like, have a plan B, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, like you were saying, you got a customer with 50 loads a day and you're going to start off with 2, the risk, the amount of risk on just 2 loads a day. And even if they mess up one, that's 50%. But imagine if they have 50 loads a day and they even mess up like 5, it's still dramatic from there, because you're only as good as your last shipment, as a lot of people kind of say here in your relationships.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? So one of my customers, we were having a conversation just last week, and I said, how are you finding things? And he says, Dan, my core drivers. I said, oh, you got company drivers? He says, no. The ones that we have a company in here, my core drivers. He goes, like, I build relationships with the drivers that come to my door.
Nice.
And I was like, see, that's it. That's the tailing off, right? That's how, so he's not just building relationships with the ops and dispatch. He's building relationships with the drivers directly. Because even if somebody in ops and dispatch leaves, the drivers are still the ones that are on, they're in the front lines. They're the Marines. They're digging the ditches. They're the ones that are really getting the job done. And so that relationship extends to the driver. So if you're doing freight where you're having that partnership, speak to the drivers as well. Get to know the drivers, and then one day you're going to call on Jim or Susan or John, the driver, to say like, oh my God, you got to bail me out. Like this is, and,
Yeah.
and they'll go inside and they'll do, like this is what it's all is. I mean, there's so many levels to this relationship idea. And it's unfortunately, a lot of people just stay at that baseline level. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, you're going to do the load. Okay. And that's it. It's like, there's so much more to it.
So
And,
much moving parts.
you and I just actually last week was it last week or the week before? We built 3 new relationships that we're going to start utilizing. And it's taken almost 2 weeks to really dig down and settle in with the suppliers and say, okay, what are the lanes? What are the areas? What is the coverage like? What is the dollar value? It's taken me almost 2 weeks because a lot of them were like, we never looked at it that way.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, look at it, talk to your team, find out who likes what, who does what, and so this guy's going around to 5, 6 different team members and compiling the information. But now we have a starting point that's going to allow us to be about 30 to 40% ahead of the crowd.
Easily.
Every time.
And we're talking from ourselves here being freight agents as well. But even if you're in a company, you're working with a company, you're salaried, and you're really not you're married to the ops team and the customer service team. Do the same thing. Talk to them, find out who their top 3 suppliers are, top 10 suppliers are, and you know what I've noticed, because I asked that at my previous place, and I could tell that like my sales manager was really impressed by that. To understand that, hey. Because a lot of us, if you're in that corporate world, you get into those meetings, pipeline talks, and you're like, yeah, I got a big fish. I'm working on this. I'm working on that. I'm working on this. And it's all fluff, right? Because everyone likes to talk about themselves. But when you could actually show that it doesn't matter what the customer's name is, I have the capacity. I actually have, when you're talking with the suppliers, because for me, I treat my carrier relationships a lot better than I do my customers. But it's not in terms of like my conversations with them and understand what they're doing. And like you were saying, Dan, like, you got Susan, you got Joe, you got John, and the people who are actually gonna make everything happen for you. Make sure that they're taken care of. Like if you find out that, hey, maybe there's kid that has like soccer practice next week for like a gold medal or something like that, reach out to them. It means a lot to them. And Dan, we had drivers on our show, female drivers, Barb and Veronica, during the Empowerment Women to Logistics. And I will tell you, they're like the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. Like I legit like talk to them like once a week. They don't move anything for me, but it's just a great thing to. I hate that barrier of like, everybody kind of thinks like that different. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I don't need to say it, but be a good human being, and it doesn't stop at just the driver. Your conversations with your driver shouldn't be hey, where's your tracking link? Where are you? You're late to the pickup, all that stuff. Imagine all that negativity you're giving to them. If you were to just call them and say, hey man, I'm really happy. Thank you so much for, doing this for my family. Because of you delivering this freight on time, our stuff went claimless. Remember, Greg talked last week about your freight, the loads and things like that. He wants it to be on time and claim free so that his customer will be happy with it, right? So I think we just need to give that appreciation all the time.
1,000%. And Ryan, part of you talked about going and find out who your top carriers are. I think anyone coming into this business, if you're 5 years or newer, your mission for the next 2 weeks is to find out your top 5 to 10 carriers at your company that your company deals with, find out their lanes, find out their volume, find out what they're trying to improve on, find out how much it's going to cost, and you start selling for them.
Yep.
That's it. I don't care if you're a broker. If you have a carrier that does freight out of Tennessee and they're looking for Nashville to Texas, I don't care. And they're the only carrier you have from Nashville to Texas. When you're soliciting companies that manufacture goods and ship out of Nashville, you're asking to go to Texas. That's it.
Yep.
Everything else, leave it on the table, because those aren't your core carriers, suppliers, partners. They're going to help you grow. And you will find sales timelines do this. They shrink massively, and you never have to worry about capacity and fluctuation because you're selling where they want to go. And if you have 2 carriers that say come out of Nashville and one goes northeast and one goes southwest, then you put that in your email. You put that down on your talking points, and you stick to those 2. Do you have freight going here or here? No. Thank you very much. Have a great day. That's it. And don't be the broker. Oh, well, okay, I could do that because I can do everything. Because I'm a broker. I got everything. No, like stick to the point, and you will grow your business faster than anyone in your company, and you will be profitable. And you're building long-term relationships that don't require you to be there. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking. Like in the end, that's what it's all about. In the end, it's not building a business inside a business to pay you a job. It's like Rico said. Like a lot of people build businesses to have a job. You're building a business to build a business, and you just happen to be working inside the shell if you work at a brokerage for some logo that's built a shell for you to pretty much fund your business. That's what it is. Go for it. Like, build that business, and you will see how fast and easy it will be. I'm not going to say it's or simple. I'm sorry, not easy, because it is hard work. But when you can build a business that doesn't require you to be there every day, that's when you have a business, not a job. That's truly the difference, Ryan. Like if you're a sales rep that's starting on the phone at 8:30 in the morning, solving problems for everybody, and things are going wrong, you're just buying yourself a job.
Yes. Yeah.
You really are. Being able to do what you do, like what you do, Ryan, where you go out for an afternoon of golf and not worry about your phone ringing because customers pissed off or something. You know what I mean? Like your team is going to take care of it. You built yourself a business. Yeah. Not a job. And it could be a high paying job. Don't get me wrong, especially in this industry, but it's still a job.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a business.
Yeah. You still clock out at a certain time. And then even when you're dealing with stuff after hours, you think, because I went through these things, Dan. So I can attest to that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the feelings are mutual with other people. You think like, hey, I'm not, this is above my pay grade, or like, it's not worth my time and stuff like that. And when you start thinking of job versus career versus business and all those things, you look at what you want to do. And there's a couple points that you made there, Dan, that I just want to really acknowledge was like, when you say that it's important what Rico said, having that business and understanding that's where growth is, because everybody that I've talked to in logistics, they've talked about, I can, and Dan, you're probably the same way too. I can tell who's going to pan out and who's not really going to pan out, just based on conversations when I have with people. And I think, I want to talk a little bit before we wrap up here a little bit, because you and I are talking from the aspect of like, having a sales team, having an ops team, having a customer service team. But if you are that cradle to the grave rep, put in that work and forget the customers for the first 2 weeks to a month or stuff like that. Yeah. Find out carriers yourself, outsource. And for me, if you're a cradle to the grave rep, because I want to relate to both crowds, right? But if you're a cradle to the grave rep, I would go and canvas my area, go knock on some doors, take some coffee, take some donuts, and get to know the carriers in your area. And then start building a business from there, because it can be doable. Like, you talk about like, hey, I can go and play golf for afternoon, but hey, if you're cradle to the grave, you set up your carriers so that they're a part of the conversation with your customers. And that's when we talk about like the cost plus stuff. So a lot of people like to hide their data because they don't want to know what their customers paying and things like that. But you get that transparency that when a customer calls for your supplier, they can answer right away. They're the direct source. If they call you, you're going to have to find out anyways. You're going to have to call that supplier anyways, right? So why wouldn't you include everybody on the same table, on the same page? And that's where I think the fun of logistics happens, because we have all these lead gen sites. We got Zoom Info, we got Seamless, we got all those stuff. So, but most of them all have like the same data, like the same exact customers or prospects. I feel bad for those prospects who unfortunately have their data in there, but everyone's pounding out emails, pounding out calls. But do something different. You and I always talk about, we don't sell freight. Do something different. Find the suppliers and just sell in that capacity. Like you said, when you send out that email, hey, I do A, B, C, D. If you're looking for Z, maybe we'll talk about it later. But for right now, my focus is on ABC, because you never want to turn away customers. And that's not what we're trying to tell people here. Don't turn away prospects, but understand that focus on what you do really well. And then maybe the market will open for you. Doors just open and you do really good things.
I mean, I would actually say turn them away for now, because they're not what you're looking for. Like I love what you just said there. Go out and start with your carrier, start with your suppliers as broker, because you build that relationship. You're on the golf course, your customer calls you and says, hey, I need another 2 loads. You call the carrier and say, hey, I got another 2 loads for pickup. They're going to PA. They're like, okay, we'll take care of it. I'll send you a load sheet when I get home.
Yeah. And I've
That's a
had
relationship.
I've had that, Dan. Like especially when we used to do
Absolutely.
like lobsters, like clockwork. We had this one carrier, brother. We wouldn't even ask, and I felt bad sometimes, but we wouldn't even ask because they always showed up. We would just send it to them, and he would just
Yeah.
confirm, yeah, cool, done, clockwork,
Yeah.
and and here's the tracking link, and
Brother,
that's it.
that's the best business.
Yeah,
Walking in on a Monday morning, sending out 25 load sheets for the week, done. Right? Like think about it. That's the way it should be. That's the way you should really try. Well, that should be the goal. That should be the achievement. It's coming in like, if I can pay for all of my employees, my seat, and all my expenses on Monday, that leaves Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for profit. Right. And that's the way I used to look at it. I used to look at my team. I used to say, okay, so Monday morning, when all like we had 25, 30 load sheet that went out Monday morning, just to dedicated suppliers with dedicated customers. And that would go out. And I'd look at my numbers and I'd say, okay, so I'm more than covered all my expenses for the week. Now,
yeah,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was all profit. And think about that for a second. When you get to a position where you're covering all your expenses before noon on Monday instead of Thursday afternoon, because you're spending so much time looking for a truck, or you're spending like you're soliciting, and people are like, well, I go here, 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 and here. And now there's 7 different phone calls, and there's like, and you're like, okay, and then you're getting 2 carriers for each lane. So you're 14 different carriers you got to get. Then you're like, and it's like, what?
yeah.
Now I've taken till Thursday
Yep.
to, in essence, to cover my nut, to cover my cost, to cover what I need to cover. Now I've got Thursday afternoon and Friday for profit. Hell, I'd like to be like by Monday at 9 a.m. I'd like to have my whole expenses covered for the week, right? Because now you got literally the whole week. But so these are strategies and just different ways of thinking that have allowed reps to, like, I know one guy in logistics makes a mint. All he does is consolidation, because he's concentrated on areas for 15, 20 years, just specific areas. And he just consolidates, charges customers LTL and consolidates and makes a mint. And
There we
everybody's
go.
like, well,
And
you can't do that as a broker. And I'm like, yeah, you can. You just got to think it through all the way. And sure, it's going to be tough at the beginning. And you might have to LTL it. And all of a sudden you got a half truckload. Then you got 3/4, and you got 1 for the week. Then all of a sudden you're going to get 1 a day, 2 a day. And that's when everything starts changing in your life.
and I think that's like, so important. You become like that one rep. He's basically he's built a great foundation. He's built his foundation from there that we're talking about. And you know what? I'd love to talk about this maybe throughout the week, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about the plus side of having dedicated partnerships, because here's
Yeah.
what's going to happen, Dan. Referrals are going to start coming through the water well. You're gonna have your carriers, your suppliers saying, "Hey, you might want to reach out to this company. Like they're a new company. But because all carriers talk, and I want to talk about the customers as well. If you're not asking for referrals all the time, I don't know what you're doing. Your customers are gonna be like, or even if it's a brand new lane, like let your customer know, like, hey, this is what I do really well. We're doing this for you right now. Here's a new lane that kind of opened up with another supplier or something like that. If anybody you think fits this, have a conversation with them, because
Yeah.
Dan, there's traffic clubs everywhere in
I
Durham
was just
region
about
where
to
I
say
live.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, Durham region. We had a golf tournament last Tuesday. I found out about it last minute, so I wasn't able to go. But there's a Toronto one, there's a Nashville one that John Brewer's a part of. Everybody talks to each other. So at the end of the day, you do a really, really good job. People will look at John Rogers, who's on LinkedIn quite a bit. He doesn't take any like brand new business. It's all referral based, and that's where you
Yeah.
kind of get yourself up to a point too.
Yep. 100%, brother. That was a good show.
Oh, that was a great show,
That was
buddy.
good,
Great show.
man.
So Daniel,
That
let
was
everybody
stellar
know what
gold
they
for
can
y'all.
expect for the week, my man.
So we've got some carriers coming in this week to talk relationships. We've got carrier relations managers to come in, talk relationships. On Thursday, we've got all about relationships for our clips. Again, salespatterlive.com. Head over to YouTube, scan the barcode Ryan will put up now. Head over to YouTube. Make sure y'all get signed up there on the ding dongs, because I always see those emails come in. Even now I'm looking, and LinkedIn didn't quite send over the announcement that we were live. So, but YouTube sure did. So you know what? Stick around if you really wanted to figure out how to build that relationship, what to talk about, what to say, and how to say it. Stick around for this week's show. You guys are gonna love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're really going to love it. We've got some amazing guests. So I know with everybody here, I know it's a late start, but we will be getting back to our scheduled time. So if you found value in this, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Like we said, to our YouTube channel. That's where we want to drive everybody to, because we just find the platform there is a lot better. Nothing wrong with LinkedIn, but it's not really helping us here. But anyways, we won't hit a replay today because technically we're really late anyways. But we'll be on tomorrow live at 11 a.m. Please share this with a friend, a neighbor, your colleague, anybody who's looking to develop a dedicated partnership. See, even I flubber up a little bit here when it's a little bit
All good,
afternoon.
brother.
Maybe I'm hungry
All
and things
good.
like that. But with that being said, we'll see everybody tomorrow, and have an amazing night. Take care, guys.